the 9th Annual San Pedro International Festival and our second panel discussion of the festival. This is the gig economy for creatives. And we have a third one coming up on Tuesday, which will be about film financing. So make sure you check out our website, spiffest.org. There's also a digital program book that you can download and see what else we're doing during the festival. We are screening films until November 12th. So, and it's free. Everything is free, free to watch and free to join in. We are streaming live for the panels to YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. So thank you very much. And I will let Rich continue with his panel.
Great. Thank you, Ziggy. Hello, everybody. I think all of us are looking forward to sharing with you, excuse me, our experience. The actual title is The Gig Economy Works for Creatives Too. And there's no part one, it's two, TOO. And what we're talking about is the gig economy is it doesn't have a single definition. It's a number of different things. In some cases, it's sites like Fiverr or Upwork, which are facilitators for buyers and sellers. And in other cases, it's just knowing how to pursue and how to seek out other opportunities online. I want to introduce our panel today. There's Brandon Johnson, and who is a screenwriter and has been on Fiverr for 5 years, which makes him one of the grand old men of Fiverr, from my perspective, anyway. There's Amber Petty, who is a, should I say former actor?
Yeah, sure.
Former actor who discovered,
Don't do it very much.
Yeah, who discovered the gig economy in a different way, and now trains actors to. What's your key phrase?
Oh yeah, I help actors find side jobs they don't hate. My big
Right, there you go. And then Cleo Kirkland is an SEO expert. Is that a correct
Yes.
way to refer to you? And
yes.
you are an expert on how to, improve your profile in the gig economy. And you actually have on Fiverr. Fiverr has a learn aspect to it, which is a series of educational videos, and you have a video about SEO. We'll talk about that in a little while. But why don't we start with each of you in more detail, talk about what you're doing, how you discovered the gig economy, and what it's done for you, how it's changed things for you. Let's start with you, Brandon.
Sure. Thank you so much, Rich, and pleasure to see everyone digitally through the internet. What we're able to do here, especially during these times, is one of the best parts of globalization that we have, and what we can do to share our intelligence and our growth, and how we can make the world a better place. And the gig economy is a major part of that. So my name is Brandon, and I'm a screenwriter and copywriter from Chicago, Illinois. And I work with executives and production companies and people in development to punch up their slates for full sale of rights, distribution, and licensing. And with the gig economy, I've had an opportunity to work with clients and buyers in that capacity from all over the world to leverage their projects and do what I can to help them connect to potential contacts and partners that perhaps they wouldn't have access to otherwise. At the same time, the gig economy has provided a wealth of SME businesses, brands, and larger companies who are looking to position their message and their brand and the story that they want to tell through a much more entertainment-focused lens. And seeing where those 2 points converge has been a really beautiful thing that has grown tremendously over the last 5 years. And that's because of freelance platforms like Fiverr and Upwork.
And Amber, why don't you talk about where you're coming from?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm Amber. Hello. And yes, I used to be an actor. I mean, I still do voiceover for Radio Margaritaville, so I'm very fancy still. But mostly what I do is I'm a freelance writer and a copywriter, and I've been doing that for the past 5 years. And I found for myself that doing a million jobs all across New York City, where I used to live, was horrible, and having no control over my schedule and feeling like I just had to, work as a barista and a teacher and a million things at once was, miserable. So I started doing freelance writing as a way to try to have like a little more control and like use my creative skills to actually make some money, for a change. And in doing that, I found that I really enjoyed the writing process, and I enjoyed getting to complete articles and things like that. And I, enjoyed getting paid for things I did, which in acting doesn't always happen. So because of all that, then I started doing freelance writing and copywriting full time instead. And now I'm just teaching classes and offering coaching for other actors and creatives and writers so that they can also just step out of those miserable kinds of side jobs that are disappearing right now and step out of the restaurant world and get to do something that uses their skills they've developed for so many years and actually get paid for it. So I teach freelance writing and do kind of side career coaching like that.
That's cool. And Cleo, you're an expert on how to pursue a lot of this, or at least how to get your profile up there, right?
Yeah, so I have less of a background in film and media, but I should mention I started this whole career about 15 years ago I was a personal trainer. I also did odd jobs in e-marketing is what they called it back in the day. And since then, I've used that experience to get other like coaching and acting and writing in general. So that's one thing that once you develop these skill sets, not only can you get paid for them through direct gigs, through Fiverr, and you can also like leverage them for other training that you're looking for as an actor or writer. So I've been doing this about 15 years, parlayed those initial like small gigs into bigger opportunities, bigger jobs. And now I do a lot of online organic growth consulting with VPs of marketing and product for startups here in the Bay Area. And through that work, I've actually coached a lot of new hirees and hired a lot of gig workers, because a lot of the marketing companies around the tech world are actually outsourcing a lot of their creative content outreach initiatives to people in the gig economy. So if that's part of how I got to do the course at Fiverr. It's a training course for anyone who's interested from going to 0 to 1 in SEO. And I think it's really easy no matter what you do, video editing, writing. You take this course or a course like it, you'll learn how to at least add SEO to your skill set, to what you're already doing. And that is invaluable and will help open up other opportunities for work for you inside the gig economy. Online marketing is an easy thing to parlay into.
Cool. And I came to this through, I was working and I still work in nonfiction video production, a lot of corporate, some documentary, some promotional, educational, training videos. And then a couple of years ago, well, 3 or 4 years ago now, I started poking around on these sites and found that I could have a client base all around the world, starting with editing a little bit, but then it took off as for writing. And I've done everything from script writing to personal letters to, all number of things we can talk about. But let's jump into the discussion. I think the first thing to do here is to define what exactly is the gig economy. A lot of people hear that phrase thrown out there, but there's not a concise, and maybe there just isn't, but let's talk about the options. What is the gig economy? And anyone who would like to jump into that first.
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay.
So I see it, as just independent contracting online. So back in the day, you can define it as like, something like personal training where you don't belong to a gym and you put it on Craigslist and somebody's like, yeah, I want, or somebody on Craigslist is like, I'm looking for a trainer. And you're like, okay, I can be a trainer. I'm certified in X, Y, and Z, and let me be your trainer. And that's an individual work assignment. And so that's kind of the start. I think Craigslist, a lot of this happened through Craigslist initially. And now you have platforms like Fiverr, Upwork, where it's much more organized. And that's for online, online marketing work, a lot of it. Then you also have things like Uber and just basically like independent contracting, doing work. You're not tied to a particular company.
And I think, these sites, they all have their different approaches. Upwork, though it's not exclusively this way, Upwork, you're basically, the buyer will post a job and you'll apply for the job. Where on Fiverr, it's more set up in such a way that I can put up an ad or put up a gig listing about what I'll do. Like, I will write your letter, I will write your script, and somebody searching for that finds your listing and 100 other listings, decides which of those they want to approach, and then you do the job. So now, I guess the question is, how do you establish yourself? Brandon, 5 years ago, you jumped onto these sites, jumped onto Fiverr. How did you make sense of what you were doing?
Well, I think it's really important to mention how tremendously these platforms have grown.
Yeah.
I think Fiverr started in 2010. And I don't know the exact dates of many of the others, but it's the idea that as a creative, right, because that's what this is about. And we've mentioned this phrase a few times, but you've never had a greater potential to go from 0 to 1 faster than ever before. So I was doing a lot of commercial work, and I was going to LA and New York for film and television projects and things like that. And when I saw where freelance platforms were 5 years ago, it definitely clicked for me that this was going to be the way forward for so much creative work and any digital service that you could think of, from web design to graphic design to writing and the whole thing. This was going to be the way forward. And these platforms now, if you just want to take your idea or your project and see a prototype of whatever it is, there are a wealth of sellers and freelancers who will be able to curate that for you very quickly and for a very competitive cost. If you're a small or medium-sized business, you can pull together entire teams of freelancers and sellers within minutes and extrapolate out not only the expediency of how you conduct your business, but also you can extrapolate out the services that you offer your clients. And then, there are many very professional, high-level sellers and freelancers who are on these platforms who, for large-scale businesses, small and medium-sized businesses, people that are in the startup world, people who have their own individual projects. If you really want to go high-level, you don't have to work with an enterprise anymore. You can actually work with a person. And I think that's what makes it so powerful. And you can work with people all over the planet in real time and connect them instantly. So for me, when I got involved, the two reservations that I saw about freelance work in general was one, that the pay was too low, and two, that it took too much work to get the projects done. And so the sentiment that I had always followed was that if you did what you loved, you'd do it for free, right? But then if you get paid on top of that, that's just fluff and gravy, right? And then at the same time, every single project that I could get, those were times at bat to hone my skills and deliver outstanding work and build, whether you're looking to build your portfolio or just connect with creatives all over the planet. I mean, this is an unprecedented opportunity to do so. And then as far as taking too much work to get projects done, I mean, that's ultimately up to you. You're going to get the value out of it, of what you put into it, like any job. And also, if you were a manager and you were looking at 3 candidates across the table from you, and one of them said, this is going to take too much work, are you going to hire that person? Absolutely not. So I mean, that's how I got involved, and I got one project, and I said, I'm just going to do 1,000% effort, over deliver, do what I can, and that project was completed, and there was these systems function based on feedback, and that's really an incredible equalizer where regardless of where you're coming from or where you're going, your skill and your talent and the work that you're willing to put in is going to show more brightly than anything else. And that's something that can empower you. So just locking onto those factors is what I decided was going to be my vessel for the success that I could create myself. And it's only grown tremendously over the last 5 years. And I would implore anybody who's looking to get involved now, these platforms are growing massively still. So now is the time to get involved, because if you want a beautiful orchard of trees today, the best thing to have done is to have planted them, 10 or 20 years ago. So the fact that, you're part of this event today means that you're in the right place at the right time.
Exactly. And some of the complaints, or not really complaints, but suspicions I guess people have about sites like these. I mean, the way that something like sites like Fiverr make an income is that they'll take a percentage of your fee. You know that in advance, and you price your gigs accordingly. And Fiverr, I think, if correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was originally called Fiverr because it was a place for people to do very cheap jobs for $5, that sort of a thing. But the fact is that people want to find are willing to pay for professional services, and they're willing to pay fair prices. And it's been, there's always a reluctance to raise your rates, because on Fiverr, you put out a fee, and people either pay it or not. And if you've got a couple of hundred, after a while, you're going to build up reviews, because every buyer can give you 5 stars and give you a review. And after a while, that gives your potential buyer a reason to go with you. And so you keep raising your rates, but you give them quality work, right? I mean, it's now, Amber, in terms of, from your perspective, the people that you're training are going after what sort of work?
Yeah, so I've worked myself, and then my students end up working with mostly digital publications, but also magazines and newspapers. So, kind of the world between like traditional reporter stuff and, things like BuzzFeed and Thrillist and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't work on Upwork or Fiverr, which is just kind of just randomly how my life happened. But yeah, so I help people just pitch editors directly and find work through there. And I do feel like actors and people in film are kind of uniquely suited for this economy, because we've already gone into this field where nobody tells you it's a good idea. Almost nobody's like, film? Oh my gosh, what a great choice. Like, what a wonderful choice of job for the rest of your life. People don't say that because it's unpredictable and you have been a gig worker your entire career. And I mean, unless you're way fancier than I ever was, you've also probably worked a lot for free or for insanely small wages. And yet you do it because it's the thing you love the most. And what I think is kind of cool about especially the world of like freelance writing or editing or wherever your skills are, is you can take those skills and get paid for them, but it also doesn't have the weight that your whole creative career has. So with your creative career, as you get started on a new screenplay or a new movie, or you work on a new part, there's this weight of all this passion of your whole life behind it. And sometimes that makes it hard. Whereas with these assignments, they still are using that creative spark that's within you. Yet, if somebody doesn't like my pitch about canned wines, my life isn't over. I didn't train my whole life to write about canned wines, in my experience. So, if they don't like it, then I just move on. Yet I have the resilience, and you guys have the resilience of being rejected and not always having a positive or a consistent stream of income, yet you keep moving forward. And with this kind of work, moving forward happens a lot faster because you're not losing a job because you auditioned for Glenda and got told you had an Elphaba-shaped face, which is a real thing that happened to my friend. You just get it or don't get it because the idea is good or not. And it's not always perfect and equitable, but it's a lot easier. And so, yeah, the getting started part is always hard, whether you're doing Fiverr or Upwork or pitching people directly. But it's also hard to go into a restaurant every day and scream at somebody to wear a mask or have somebody yell at you because their bread was cold. So like, which bad do you want to deal with? And like being at home and writing an article for Snooki about pickles, again, a real thing that I did, wasn't like a dream, but it was a lot nicer than being in Times Square in a banana suit handing out smoothie samples. Another real job I've had. So that's just kind of where my opinion on the whole thing. And I do feel like creatives are suited the most to be the most successful in the freelance gig economy world.
And especially now, as things have sort of, gone into this sort of stasis with the pandemic. I mean, I've seen my work continue, and I do this sort of part-time. It has continued and increased over the pandemic. People are all over the world are still creating or still have issues, still want to immigrate or still want to complain to a CEO. I mean, all these things, life still goes on. And for creatives, and by creatives, by the way, anything that you do from acting, voiceover work, writing, special effects work, it can be any kind of graphics work. All of that is available as, people are looking for all of that. I mean, I edited a TV show for a network or a station in, I think, Ghana just recently. I mean, there's all kinds of things that pop up, and there for you it may be people are willing to pay for your skill. And it's an exciting opportunity, and especially now when you need to have multiple streams of income, because who knows if we'll ever we will get through this, but I think this is going to change the approach that we all take to ensuring our future, because jobs come and go sometimes. But this sort of thing, this sort of gig economy is more sustainable than as you were talking about, Amber, of working in a restaurant. So, we had a question come in. How do you manage independent contractor freelance income? Did you find it difficult to generate a continuous stream of income? Brandon?
That's a great question, because that's what we all have to consider when making changes in our lives and adapting to those changes, right? So I would say that one of the biggest points that we all want to make within this panel is, how do you present yourself? How can you create a presence? How can you get started if you're not already initiated? And if you already have taken that first step, how can you raise up how you're doing your work and doing what you're doing to create more success and financial independence? And, that's going to be on the backbone of the fact that, larger than just Fiverr and Upwork, the gig economy in general and freelance work and online contracting work is growing tremendously. Just look at how the market is reacting to it. This is here to stay, and this is where much of the world is going. So, how do you manage that? How do you bring that into your life? It's the age-old adage of you hope for the best and plan for the worst. And that's not meant to be glass half empty, but you have the power now to decide what kind of work you're going to do, the time in which it's going to take you to do it, what you charge for it, and how much you want to engage with clients and buyers. So it's not so much a matter of like, how am I swinging through the jungle and simultaneously figuring out how to grab fruit at the same time. You have more tools at your disposal to define how you're going to work as a freelancer. And with that, you'll be able to project, if I do one project this whole month, what is that going to be, and what is it going to take to do it? And at the same time, there's a very wide and growing marketplace of not competitors, but other freelancers who may be doing similar things to you. And it's very easy to just do an audit and look at, who's prolific at this? What are they doing? How are they presenting themselves? And then taking something like that and saying, well, what makes me unique? What's unique about my voice and what I can provide? Mm-hmm. And adapting to how clients and buyers are navigating the market and what they're purchasing and what's succeeding, and how you can fit within that ecosystem. Personally, there's no real way of not saying it like this. I was dogged about it. When I started taking freelance work digitally and online more seriously about 5 years ago, I chose to be relentless, and that was purposeful because I believed in where these platforms were going. But I can tell you that today, there are far, far more potential clients and buyers out there than have ever been. And perhaps you will not have to be so dogged, which means that if you choose to really put yourself out there, you have a greater starting earning potential that I perhaps did. So that's a really positive way of looking at it.
Mm-hmm. And Cleo, I think a lot of people watching this may not really have a clear idea of what SEO is and how it can help them. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. First, I just wanted to comment on that question. I think it's a great question. Mm-hmm. And I think there's two aspects to look at it. There's technical tools to help you manage your income, do the taxes. And, for that, a lot of the platforms actually do the work for you. Upwork sends me a W-9 and all. They send me all the tax details as a seller and a buyer. And then there are tools like Bill.com. If you are not on the platforms and you're sending, you're doing gigs through, people that you find. There's jobs. Job boards also will post like part-time gig. That's another source of steady income. So there's tools like Bill.com and I forget the other one that help you like submit invoices to clients. And so if you Google that, like invoicing is the hard part when you're totally independent, keeping track of the invoicing, all that, so that it gets to your bank account. Sometimes clients will send you checks instead of direct deposits. So I definitely recommend a platform like Bill.com if you're not on like a Fiverr or TaskRabbit or whatever you're using. And then to build income over time, well, it all starts really with opportunity. So initially, at least for me, I was doing jobs for a low amount of money so that I can have a portfolio to show off. And once you have that portfolio, people can discover you organically. They can discover you on the platforms. They can discover you on Google when they're searching, but you need to have that portfolio. So in the beginning, and that takes time. So in the beginning, you might be doing jobs that are lower paying. But once you establish your portfolio and you get enough reviews, that's when your income stream is going to be more continuous. So I would say, like, don't abandon the job you have now.
No.
Put in the work to build a portfolio in whatever gig platform that you're focusing on. And then once you have continuous stream of income, you can let go of some of those other jobs that you used to do. Now, sorry, Rich, the question was SEO?
Yeah, if you could define, I think for
Okay.
something, if you start working on these sites, you'll be hearing about it. So
Right.
talk a little bit.
So search engine optimization, SEO, it's just really the process of helping your, so if I'm a business, I want my customers to find me. And my customers are searching for me everywhere, and they search in different ways depending on the type of business. If I'm a restaurant, my customers are searching probably within Yelp and Google Maps for like best places to eat. If I am if I sell widgets online, they might go to Google, they might go to Amazon, they might go to wherever. So as a search engine optimizationist, my business is helping companies make it easy for their customers to discover them. So for Yelp, for instance, I would help them set up their profiles. For if they sell widgets online, I would help them optimize their website, make sure the title tag says widgets. Help them promote their website online, all that kind of stuff. SEO mostly focuses on websites, so it's not really the other like restaurants and all that kind of stuff. But in general, that's the process of I make it easier for businesses, for customers of businesses to find those businesses online. And the large part, it's Google mostly is the search engine I work with the most. And the basic components of SEO are making sure that the meta information for each page, the page title, all the words, speak to the customer. They have the right keywords in there. They have the right, tone and pitch, so people are likely to click on it. And then there's a technical aspect, making sure that Google can read your page. Because if you have, for instance, a tag that says don't follow or no index, then Google's not going to visit that page. It's not going to rank, and then people cannot discover it online. And the third aspect of SEO is promotion. So you want to get other websites to talk about you, especially websites within your industry. So if I sell widgets, I want other websites that talk about widgets to link to me, because every link is like a vote. Mm-hmm. And that's really the most important part of SEO. And yeah, that's SEO in a nutshell.
And Brandon, do you use? I know that Fiverr has for each gig that you post, there's an SEO tool. Do you ever use that?
Yeah, I mean it's real simple through that feature. Obviously, there is a lot of finesse and minutia to how SEO can work for you in a wealth of ways, but the main thing on freelance platforms that I've seen is that you want to just put tags that are relevant to what you're doing, right? Because if people go onto a marketplace and they want XYZ and you're XYZ, if they type in X, it should go to you. If they type in Y, it should go to you. If they type in Z, it should also go to you. But so you want to put in terms, and I think Cleo can speak to this perhaps better than I can, but just looking at what you're providing as a service, and then making your search engine optimization terms relevant to what you're providing, so that when
Brandon,
people are, sorry?
There's a question. What do you think are the most important for y'all? Because since you're on Fiverr and rank so well, what do you think are the most important ranking factors for your Fiverr pages? Is it keywords? Is it reviews? How do you think? How do people get to the top of the heap for?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, and a better way of looking at this top down. So it's a number of different factors, and some of them are more metric related, like SEO and having words that describe what you're providing, and some are more analytical. Over time, it's been shown statistically that if you have a picture of yourself and you're putting yourself and your person and your presence out there, there's more magnetism in that for people who are coming to a platform and they want to work with a person, right? If you put your name in your username, then again, you're more approachable. That's proven statistically to be more effective over time. direct, concise descriptions and service lines that, like SEO, state exactly what you're doing. If I'm writing scripts, I'm going to say, I will write XYZ for your company, for your tech startup. If you're in a more niche, if you're working in that niche, whereas something I will opine beautifully on the language of the muses to create poetry for your business. Like, that's going to get nowhere, right? Because it's not what people are trying to find. They're trying to get from 0 to 1. So I think those factors, and then if you have a profile online, here's the last little analytical piece. If you invite people, if you write in your description to have them contact you if they have questions, if they don't know where to start, get in touch with me. The more open that you can be, the more that you are creating that call to action to start a conversation. That's like 99% of the work that you will need to do to convert sales and things like that. That's like telling people, come inside my store so that I can show you everything that I have, right? So those factors I have found are the most pivotal in presenting yourself and generating traction.
So if I were to search for like script writing, would I see that last call to action in the search engine result page on Fiverr, or would I have to click into your profile?
I think for the get in touch with me piece, that would be within your profile. I think how all freelance platforms work, you'll get pages of search results and it'll be image, your username, and the tagline or the description of the service, right? So right there, you have an opportunity to give them your name, prove that you're a human, show them a picture, establish rapport in that way, and then have some sort of description that explicitly states what you're going to provide. And hopefully that matches the SEO that is the underpinning of how your gig or services are going to be accessible throughout the search engines and the system.
I think there's also an art to both writing the gig and writing your profile. And as you were talking about, Brandon, when I write a gig, I'm always saying it's always best to contact me first, and we can make sure we're right in sync. I mean, they like the fact that you're interested, not in just offering a service, but in understanding what they want. And
Right.
It's usually very helpful. And I also suggest that maybe I can give you a better deal or a different kind of deal that'll work better for you. So there's a motivation there. And in creating your profile, and I was very fortunate in that I had a little bit of training when I started on Upwork, because I did Upwork first. And one of the great suggestions that my trainer gave me, and it's worked wonderfully since, is that you're not creating, when they ask you to post your background, you're not just posting your resume or a bio, but you are expressing what it is that you can do for the client. They don't care what you've done; they care what you can do for them. So there's an art to creating an effective description that both talks about what your qualifications are, but what you're offering them. I think that's. Let me turn back to you, Amber, in terms of what. How do you get over help the actors get over the anxiety of this sort of a transition?
Oh, completely. Because it's not always easy, because even though you're writing articles and, I've had students write about podcasts and air fryers and all kinds of, seemingly random things, you're still writing, and that is still vulnerable. And for people, and even I've worked with, TV writers and stuff, And it's still a little bit scary to put yourself out there. And that's really like the biggest obstacle of all. It's not really the doing of the writing or the thinking of the ideas, it's the offering it out there. Because in my stuff, you do have to pitch your ideas to editors or respond to pitches or respond to, places looking for jobs. And that's basically saying, I think this idea is good, please pay me for it. And people get freaked out and think, well, my idea is not that good. It probably sucks, I shouldn't do it. When in reality, editors are looking for ideas all the time. They have so much space to fill and they have to do it. So when you are giving them an idea, it is actually a gift. And even if they go, hey, you gave me socks, I just got a bunch of socks, no thank you right now for this gift, metaphorical socks, as you can see. But even if they're like, I just got a bunch of socks, they aren't going, I hate you and your socks. They're just going, this isn't what I need right now. And so in a class I just taught, every single person that pitched an idea sold an idea, but only half of the class pitched anything because that pitching part is so scary. So my biggest piece of advice, I guess, is that it's just not that big of a deal. It feels like it's such a huge thing. And if you're used to acting and TV writing, when you're pitching yourself, you are pitching for bigger things that you've worked on for longer periods of time. And there's a lot writing on it. With this, it's just, do you want a story or not? I'll have another story for you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Who cares? And it's just not that big of an idea. And look at what's posted. And I don't say this in a bad way, but there's like stupid stuff posted all the time. And that's what I love to read. I read an article about 100 pens. Like, what are 100 list of 100 good pens. I was thrilled to read that. So there's just all kinds of stuff out there that people are interested in. And it doesn't always have to be the most exciting or most life-changing idea. It just needs to be an idea. And it's going to be interesting because it's coming from you and your life background and your curiosity that gets to fill in all those blanks. So the biggest thing is just, you have to put yourself out there, and it is scary, but it gets easier. And it's just so much easier than all the stuff you've had to do before, than auditioning, pitching TV shows, any of that. It's 1,000 times easier than any of that stuff. And
Yeah. Once you've done it, then you've done it. It's like getting a shot, right? Except this doesn't even hurt. So
yeah,
like the Michael Jordan quote is, you miss 99% of the shots you don't take, or something like that.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I think.
Anyway. But it's the idea that if you're not putting yourself out there, then you're not putting yourself out there, and that's the name of the game. And for a lot of these gig jobs and services and things like that, companies are coming to these platforms because their end result is getting from A to B, and they make that decision first. And then they say, oh, I need somebody who can help make that happen so that I can then go from A to B, right? So you personally don't have a lot of risk. And if you're here, you're already saying to yourself, I have what it takes to do this. So this should be a match made in heaven, right? The more an entertainment, film, and television side, a lot of those decisions come down to, is this person, do they have the authentic voice? Who are they? What is their superpower as a creative? Like, there's a lot more personally at stake, that you're hinging on something that has thousands of different potential outcomes that are objectively more stressful. And you can do that, but you can create a lot of traction and success for yourself going the route that we're describing, which should be a match made in heaven for freelancers and companies and people who are looking to get projects done. And I think that there's just never been a more, there's never been a time in human history where technology has allowed this to happen so quickly at such a high dollar value all the time.
Right. It's accelerated. It's just in the last few months. I mean, it's been building for years, but the pandemic sort of gave it, put it on steroids. And I mean, it's just, I found it to be amazing. Let me ask you, what do Brandon, what has been on Fiverr has been your most extraordinary client, or extraordinary story, I should say, in terms of who you've worked with and the most unusual?
Well, I would like to just speak to that more openly, because I wouldn't speak specifically about somebody's work and
Generally,
what they want to put out there. But what I will say to that is, over the time that I've been pursuing freelance work online, the stature and the scope of work of people who are coming to the gig economy, and it's beyond Fiverr and Upwork. Those are unbelievable vessels where this work happens, but this is the gig economy in general. The status and the stature and the legitimacy of these clients has grown tremendously. And I sound like a broken record now, but there are large scale production groups and publishers that are they're facilitating so many different facets of how they get their creative works and their intellectual properties out there, from beta readers to illustrators to graphic designers to people who are doing the web design for the web presence, people who are doing video editing and video production for these intellectual properties. And if you're sitting on a freelance platform, you have the ability to tie all of that together for your clients, and all of those resources are right there for you to do it. So we're really talking about something that's not just, hey, what can I do with my skills? If you're willing to be proactive, you can be the person to manage so many facets of different large-scale projects that can come together. And you can be the lens by which all of that success happens. And I've seen more and more of that, from major global brands to agencies that are looking to find freelance work to step in and be a source of creative problem solving for them. All different levels of film and television are now coming to the gig economy for the same kind of creative problem solving. And there's a real beautiful way that you can connect all of that together.
What if somebody's jumping into this for the first time? How do they make sense of the gig economy? What's a good first step?
Well, one of the things to do is to think about your skills beyond the basic things that you do. So if you are an actor, it doesn't mean it has to be acting. If you are an editor, it doesn't have to be editing. Think about what is something that kind of comes easily to you, or that you look at online and go, oh, I could do that. Because if you think that, it's probably true. And the barriers to entry are a lot lower than you think they are. Because unlike so many other jobs in the past, there's like no degree for any of this. You don't need a journalism degree to pitch to the New York Times. You can be anybody. Anybody can even pitch there. That's, the fanciest of examples, but anybody can get started. So think about what comes naturally to you and what you're interested in, and things you would like to share. So if you do editing on the side, and that's something you like and kind of feels a little easy to you, well, then think of who would benefit most from that. Think about, would you want to target actors who need reels done? Would you want to look at companies who, want to make better YouTube videos than just the random streams they have now, or whatever? Or if you're a photographer or a writer, anything, just give yourself credit for the skills you have. Because I've worked with a lot of creatives who just go, well, my life's not interesting, and I'm bad at everything, and everything I'm good at is worthless. And that's how it feels sometimes. But that's just not true. Storytelling is a vital part of everything in marketing, in a lot of stuff that people do. And being able to use that ability you have, that ability of empathy, and to tell a story, to think from another person's point of view that you have as a person in the film industry, that's very helpful to all kinds of people. So give yourself credit for your skills. Think about what comes easily to you, and then even just start Googling. Start Googling places you'd like to pitch for and write for, or look at these platforms and see what feels good to you. You can still look at places, even like Craigslist sometimes, It's not all questionable. Some of the stuff is still there, but it can give you an idea of the types of things that are out there that you could get started in.
I think, as Brandon was saying, you have to understand what your superpower. You have to understand what you do really well, and that you could provide. There are, like I said, such a wide range of industries that are using this, the gig economy now. I mean, it can be, and it could be anything from corporations to small production companies to gaming companies, gamers, people who need coders. That's a different thing entirely. I mean, we're talking about creatives, but it's such a huge canvas that you can jump onto. But how do you leverage what your background is into making that work for you when you're first starting out on these sites?
I would say to that, we should be more forward thinking about what we're doing, right? Amber made some unbelievable points that I just want to touch on briefly about how there is no, precursor to how this works. And to that, I think Amber said that, nobody has ever needed a degree or something like that to pitch to a large entity. And I think that's always been the case. Nobody has ever really needed that, but there's always been a lot of systematic pressures in place and gatekeepers that, and I'm not trying to be too much of somebody on their soapbox right now, but there have always been these measures to kind of keep things the way they were. And like Amber was saying, there isn't a degree for this, or you don't need one. A degree has never really made the person who they are. Like the work that they did, defined who they were and how they were seen. And, you now have a pedestal through the internet by which to do this for yourself. You don't need a degree to do this, but the pervading principle is that that the hard work and the passion and the dedication and the willingness to put yourself out there, that's always been the Higgs boson particle, that central piece that's going to define, people who, who are not doing as much as they could, and people who are doing more. I got a little off topic there. Sorry, Rich. What was the question?
What was the question?
How to use your own skills, like how to
leverage
when you're just starting out.
Right. Digital skills. Digital skills.
I think it sort of just dovetails into what we were just, or dovetails from what we were just talking about. You have to decide, what you want to do and how much you're willing to put into that. As this is catered to creatives, there's something that you're passionate about, and there's something that's been pulling at your mind and your heart equally for forever, right? So just locking on to what that is and then deciding how you're going to put yourself out there. It's not that there are certain ingredients that you need in your life. You're ultimately figuring out your voice and how you want to put yourself out there. So maybe that's a bad answer, but I think it hinges more on the forward thinking and what you want to do going forward, as opposed to looking at things that have happened to you and say, what does this make me? Just look at what you want to be and how you want to react, going forward.
Right. And like, again, as I said, a lot of it is the perspective that you take and the way you approach your clients, the way you present yourself on the site. And the sort of positive vibe that you offer. I mean, people are always looking. You were talking about the face, the headshot, and people want that personal connection, and they want to know that even more than you can have 500 reviews or you can have 10 reviews, but if they like your presentation and you have 10 reviews, they might go with you over someone else who just pushes out, very simple, impersonal service. Everybody wants to work with a human being that's interested in what they're doing. I mean, I think that's key.
Can I add something to that real quick? And then I want to be quiet for a little bit because I've done a lot of talking. But The one thing you said sparked this thought that there's all this. There's a lot of talk. There's a lot of events where people ask, like, how can I price more? How can I be more competitive? How can I do this? How can I reach more people? And the defining thing to remember is that there are clients and buyers for every type of seller or freelancer, right? So there are definitely people out there who know the sentiment you get what you pay for, right? And they're going to look for somebody who's pricing higher because that's going to come with greater accountability and ownership and responsibility. And honestly, those clients are usually the people who are more hands-off and saying, like, you're the expert, I'm paying you to be the expert. So don't be afraid of, if you value your work and you think, if you look at the marketplace and see that, I can do this at a really high level, don't be afraid to price something higher. Just as much as if you're looking to get out there and you're willing to be competitive, don't be afraid to price lower. One of the great things about the gig economy and how it's growing is that a lot of people who are starting out, creatives especially, have always been told, like, you need to earn your place, you need to earn your keep, you need to work for free. And let's use Fiverr as an example, right? A lot of those first services were just for $5. That's really low, right? Well, no. What did that do? That defeated working for free, and you were always able to charge what you wanted. So, we are living in a much better utopian gig economy and consulting and contracting environment, I think, than we ever have. And I just wanted to add that in.
Okay. And Cleo, we were talking a little bit about SEO, but I mean, there's a lot of misconception, or it's a great mystery in terms of when someone jumps into this world about how do they translate this. Now, I know you teach. Fiverr has an educational aspect, so that if you get on there and you start selling gigs, you're not stuck in one place. You can expand your skills. You can build on what you're already building, offer more gigs and more opportunities to make an income. Can you talk a little bit about the Fiverr Learn and what that is and what you're doing on there?
Yeah, I just posted a link, I think, to my course. But this kind of dovetails into what Amber and Brandon were talking about. You don't need a degree to do these things. If you're interested in a new area, maybe you don't know how to do video editing and you're a writer, and you want to learn to become a video editing person and then get a couple of gigs, that's totally possible. Within 18 hours or so, you can learn. You can go to Udemy or Fiverr's Learn platform, and you have experts talking about the craft. They talk about basically step by step on how to do something from 0 to 1. And because a lot of the job opportunities on Fiverr and Upwork are very entry level, you can get paid to learn. And I think that's the best part about the gig economy these days. So in my course, for instance, I walk people through how to do an SEO audit through the most popular tool, SEMrush, which is really the only tool you need. These days, for a lot of the different jobs, the tools do a lot of the work. So it's really understanding how to read each tool and use each tool. I see that question about, are there any tools in technical and otherwise you would use? So for SEO and for any marketing, online marketing work that you do in the gig economy, SEMrush is like your home base. You learn how to use that well, and you can learn how to do most jobs well. And so, you can learn anything very quickly. And Udemy and Fiverr Learn are two of the great platforms to doing that.
Yeah, I want to, since this is being recorded now and will last, since we're talking about these courses, I just want to put this one in here. This is a different one that is Online Freelancing Essentials, Be a Successful Fiverr Seller. The reality is that these tools and strategies will convert anywhere. They're particularly directed towards how to build your presence on Fiverr. It's good to know that, we can post these links here in descriptions or after this stream. This is another course that I helped author. And if you're looking to get started, there are a lot of really successful strategies here that will help you present yourself.
Right. And I like I said, when I jumped into Upwork, I took some training. There are companies that will actually could take you through a course on how to use these systems or how to look at it, how to present yourself, if you want to go that route. Or you can, like everything else, you can look on YouTube, you can Google it, you can take these courses and just accelerate the process. Because there is a slight, and I don't want to make it sound like it's steep, but there is a learning curve to going on these sites and accelerating your presence. I mean, at Fiverr, for the first year that I was active or trying to be active on it, I didn't have much activity at all, but I kept poking at it and changing the description of my gigs, and eventually it starts slowly accelerating, and then it takes off at a certain point. Again, with these algorithms that are on Fiverr, it's not only your keywords, but it's how you edit your gigs and how many people are looking at it. And eventually, when people search, as I said before, as people search for for what you're selling, you'll come up close to the top, and it's a self-propelling engine, which is great. And then if you want to take a break, you turn it off and walk away for a while. It's just you can make it work for you any way you want. And yes, there are people. In fact, I want to bring in. This is a good opportunity to bring in Kayla. Can you get off for a moment, Kayla? McCreary is the technical person behind doing all these seminars and Q&As that the festival's doing. And she was hired through Upwork and does this full time. And hopefully, there she is. Hello, Kayla.
Hello.
Kayla, you came to us through Upwork.
I did, yeah.
So tell me how you got into, the gig economy, and now you had a full-time job and you left and you're doing this sort of work for all kinds of organizations, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I was in the corporate space for about 3 years post-college and worked for a couple of, pretty big firms, and was able to learn under some, really influential marketers and some just fantastic leadership, and, was able to be both in client-facing roles and do some background work. So, recently, I think because of the pandemic and COVID and working from home, I just kind of took a step back and realized that this wasn't, I don't think, my path anymore. I didn't really want to stay in the corporate space, and without a plan, kind of quit my job, which, thinking back, probably wasn't the best idea, but hey, it worked out, which is great. And so I heard about Upwork and Fiverr and all of these different programs, and kind of made the transition using other, gig sites that people hear about, your Postmates and your Uber Eats. So even TaskRabbit, I was able to, become a personal assistant for some people in the meantime while I started to build a client base on Upwork. And within 2 months now, 95% of my income is coming from Upwork. And, basically listening to you guys talk about, your experiences, I relate to that immensely, because it really is about, doing that audit, looking at what other people are doing that are doing it well. And just honestly reaching out to as many people as possible. Sometimes, I know you had talked about rejection, Amber. I mean, it's going to happen. Like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen over and over again, but you get used to those things. And it's, it's been really great to kind of build that up, and I'm having a fantastic time. So.
Now, is this what you're doing for us at the festival? Now you're doing, I guess, the Q&As. You're doing this. What else are you? Is that basically what you're you're coordinating these live events?
Well, so the funny thing about work like this is it can turn into something else. I was originally hired to just do some social media posting throughout the week. Ziggy made some suggestions, I made some suggestions, and we kind of expanded the scope of the project. And now, kind of doing this tech, doing the social, all of the graphic design, and yeah, a little bit of everything, just kind of helping Ziggy out with what she needs. And, we've kind of expanded that partnership a little bit throughout just this week. I mean, we just met, I think, a week ago today. So,
Right. And you're based in Chicago. We're out in Los Angeles.
I'm based in Chicago. Brandon, you said you were too. But yeah, I mean, that's also the great part about this technology is it's not just, people here in Chicago. I'm able to work with people all over the country, which, these platforms have given me something that I wouldn't have had before. So
did you do this sort of a thing in your corporate job?
Yeah, so I was a marketing strategist. I worked at Victoria's Secret on their campaign team. I was at Walgreens for a little bit doing brand marketing and kind of was a jack of all trades marketer. Took that same approach while I was there. I wanted to be a sponge and learn as much as possible. So anytime there was an opportunity for me to hop in and say, hey, I think I can figure out how to do that, and just took it and ran with it. Was able to learn and expand my skill set kind of beyond that, because I knew that eventually is, take it and do it myself. It doesn't make fiscal sense for them to hire me or employ me if they're not making money off of what I'm doing. So why not work for myself and make that money back?
I think that's a good lesson for creatives getting into the gig economy. You got to think outside the box.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to go to the local Fiverr events back in the days when we could see each other in 3D. And a lot of the people that would come to these local events here in LA were voiceover artists. And some of these people made their entire living online, providing, 30-second VOs or documentaries or commercials all over the world, for companies all over the world. Somebody needs an American, someone needs an American accent in England, they do, or in Germany or wherever, they do that. I mean, and this relates again to Amber, what Amber was saying, what everybody was saying, what everyone's saying is that you have this huge opportunity, this huge, possibility. I feel like, as much as I'm doing this, that it's the tip of the iceberg in terms of the opportunities that are out there. We're talking about more and more people across the world that are getting on this. I've worked with clients in 14 different countries, because Fiverr will track that for you and tell you what your world domination is. So they call it. So I mean, I've worked with people all over the world, and that's incredibly exciting to have that. And of course, it's the jobs are all different. I mean, I've done all kinds of jobs for, corporate letters, corporate bios, corporate personal letters, apologies, complaints, and anything you can imagine. And like I said, I did a VR script a few months ago for a company in Vegas. I mean, everything is different. And of course, there's been about 24 COVID-related correspondence that I've been doing since the COVID began, that relates to people and how they're working with their own companies, or what they're trying to negotiate with their landlord, and that sort of a thing. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's so, and that's really exciting, Kayla, that you've been able to build this up so quickly. And I think it probably isn't a good idea for you to quit your job and go online. I mean, I think it's a unique time. You have a unique set of tools, but it's not common. It takes time to build up, a level of presence. So we're coming into the last, 20 minutes. So I want to give everybody a chance to talk about what they're doing beyond, what we're talking about here. And how people might interact with you if you choose to offer your website or have more questions. So Amber, why don't you're you're right there in front of me. So
Yeah, I'm right here, not far away. Yeah, so if you want, I'm doing a workshop actually next week on Thursday and Saturday. They're both the same workshop, but just called WTF Do I Do Now? 10 side jobs that don't suck. So it's just leading through like different types of jobs you can start doing online, with an emphasis more on the writing side of it, but just kind of opening your eyes to different opportunities like that. So it also comes with a big PDF where you have access to job boards and extra information in other places like this. And actually, hopefully, if it's okay, Brandon and Cleo, I'll add your classes to that list because they're so helpful. But anyway, you get all that stuff and it's just a free workshop. So if you want to sign up for that, it's amberpetty.com/workshops. And I think we might be able to put that in the comments afterwards. But yeah, that's free. Check that out. Or you can get on my email list. I send out mostly writing job or kind of VA job opportunities every week if you're interested.
now, Cleo, you have you started or you have a presence on Facebook and
LinkedIn. Yeah, well, LinkedIn is just starting, and maybe so. So I'll explain. I do part of organic marketing is just getting people together and talking. I've realized over time. So I created a Facebook group called Good Question, where the premise is every post must be a question, and there's no fighting or like shaming people for their questions. So we cover topics from like, which one's got to go? Britney Spears, Beyonce, Lady Gaga, or Adele. That was a poll. Britney Gaga.
So we can ask about SEO as well, right?
You can ask. So the Facebook one is mostly just everyday life questions. But I just started this LinkedIn one, which I'll post here. Where
by the way, you're hearing about all these links. They will be posted.
Okay.
Taylor, where are they going to be posted?
Will be posted probably on our Facebook, just under the live stream that we'll post. Yep.
Oh, gotcha.
On the Spiff site, on the Spiffest, SPIFFEST Facebook page.
Okay.
Or you can go ahead.
If you look, if you just search in LinkedIn, search in LinkedIn or Facebook for Good Question Group, you'll find us. The LinkedIn one just start, but if you have any SEO questions, if you have any questions about working in the gig economy, I'll try to answer them. Hopefully, more people will jump on, and we'll just help each other learn.
Right. And Brandon?
I don't have anything I'm particularly promoting right now. I have a venture called Superposition, and I work with a number of different partners to help facilitate. We're building long-term investing for entertainment and other media type things. As far as freelance, I've been doing this for a long time, and really it's something that I'm particularly passionate about and something that I see as a big part of the future. So I've been involved with Fiverr's community development for a long while now. And so what I would say is, if you want to get involved, if you want to help build either a side gig or take more of your career into the freelance realm and give yourself more financial freedom, I would go to events.fiverr.com. That's a great way to get involved. And I would.
By the way, that's Fiverr with 2 R's.
Yeah. Events.fiverr, FIVERR.com. And that's a great way to get involved in addition to all the educational resources we've been talking about today and the courses you can use to help give yourself a leg up or strategies when putting yourself out there. And that really is the 0 to 1 of all this. So I would just implore you, everybody, especially creatives who have just a big opening to really, not just think about your dream, but take action on your dream. You've never had more opportunity than this right now. So take advantage of the resources we're talking about today, because this is an awesome conversation, but it's just an hour and a half and you have the rest of your life. So, let's make something really beautiful out of that.
Absolutely. Well, thanks all of you. I don't have any link but you can contact me at rich@rlsventures.com. Or you can find all of us on Fiverr or on Upwork, but we'll post that on the Fiverr. On the Facebook page. That's what it is. So so thank you very much, all of you, for joining us, and thank you, Cleo, Brandon, Amber, and Kayla, wherever you are. Well, thank you, and we'll see you next time.